Hello everyone, this is SC2 Noob School. I am Travis. This is my beard, which I've been getting a lot of good comments about, by the way. I appreciate all of that. Best beard in esports. Ding. Anyway, so today we're going to be talking about the Overlord, and I'm very excited today because the Overlord, to most people out there, most of you out there, this is the unit that you just, like send into the corner of your base somewhere. You stack them all in one big pile, and you're like, Overlords, don't you move. I don't want you moving outside of this base. No playing in the street with Vikings or Phoenixes. I don't want you guys getting killed. Stay safe. Well, today we're going to break down all of that. You're going to get rid of those bad habits, and we're going to use the Overlord as in a lot of different ways, actually. We're going to use them as a scout, we're going to do drops, we're going to spread creep around. It's going to be awesome. So without further ado, I'm going to cut to some games. First, I'm just going to show you some scouting things, basically how to use your first, second, X number of Overlords, placing them around the map to do effective scouting. Then we're going to talk about some of the more like subtle, cool mechanics. So let's go ahead and get to it. Alright, so we're going to start off by watching a replay from Artosis. This is part of his replay pack that he was so kind to put on the internet during the downtime for us noobs to analyze and criticize. So we're just going to watch his first Overlords, and then there's going to be some kind of trickier things later that I'm going to point out that are really good ideas to have and good things to think about. So sending this first Overlord to the close air position is always nice because it's the quickest scout you'll get off, basically. And then he's just going to wander up, following me across the minimap. He's going to wander around here, park himself right here in the air position. So this next Overlord, this is the second Overlord that came out. I really want to emphasize the spot that he put it on right here. It's a really good spot to keep an Overlord because technically he is up on this cliff. So when the Protoss has ground units right here, if he doesn't have sight up the cliff, he's never going to see this Overlord. So the Overlord is actually going to get to stay there almost the entire game. And players always have a tendency, once they expand, they're going to want to keep their army right about here. And so the entire time, Artosis is scouting this, exactly seeing what his opponent's unit composition is. And if we were to watch the end of the game, he basically counters exactly what he needs to, because this Overlord provided him so much information. And so, let's see. Like I said, this Overlord is in a good spot. He can always see if there's any weird air shenanigans going on, but he's also pretty safe. Later, if you, say, haven't gotten any scouting information in a while, you can just suicide him into the base, see what's going on, maybe morph him into an Overseer, do some changeling action, good stuff. And then the last thing I wanted to point out, second to last thing, is Artosis is putting, once he gets that lair and he gets the creep vomit, he's putting Overlords up here and dropping creep. This is to protect him from any kind of drops that are going to go on. You can see that he saw that there is a robotics facility out, so there's a possibility of warp prism shenanigans going on right here, so he's staying very proactive. This is one of those things that's probably not going to help you in, 19 out of 20 games, but on that one game it does help you. It might save you the game. So it's a really good habit to have. Also, I want to point out, he's not wasting these Overlords just bunching them around in his base. He's being proactive about spreading creep around. So there's one last thing I want to show, and I think it happens around, 16-minute mark or so. You're going to see a bunch of Overlords gather here, and he's going to build a creep highway. This is one of my favorite things to watch in the game ever. It's so cool looking when he does it. Basically, the situation is he's got an expansion way over here. He's wanting to expand away from his opponent, but he can't take this one because it's too risky. So he gets an expansion far away, and he needs to increase how fast all of his units can move between those expansions. So he gets this Overlord train going, and he's going to drop creep everywhere along this path. I'm just going to speed it up a little bit. Dropping creep everywhere, creating this huge creep highway, and if that's not like one of the coolest things you've ever seen in a StarCraft game, I don't know what is. I love it, and it actually will really help out if you're trying to, say, the Protoss pushes out and gets a little bit of map control right here. You can bounce back and forth between your bases, protecting them a lot easier. Alright, so now we're going to watch something cool, this time from Nogrim. This is a couple minutes into the game, 8.5 minutes. You can see he's doing normal scouting things. He's got an Overlord over here so that he can see the expansion up. On honestly, I'd like to see an Overlord somewhere around here to spot maybe drops or anything coming in. Have it positioned so that if you want to suicide one in there real quick, you could do it, or do change things or whatever, but not the biggest deal. But we are going to see something really cool from Nogrim that I really recommend you can do if you can spare the time to do it mid-game. What we're going to see is these Overlords clustering up, and then they're just going to start moving out on the map. And watch the mini-map with me. Watch all these green little squares. Going to go to every expansion on the map, as well as a couple places here and over here. Now there's an Overlord over there. Just dropping creep everywhere. And what this will do is, first of all, it gives you sight of anything going on over here. And then second of all, I can honestly say I don't think there's any better feeling when you have an Overlord here, you're vomiting creep on an expansion, and then all of a sudden you see a little Terran command center floating over, and then he tries to sit down and he kind of wavers around and turns around and can't figure out what to do, and then has to retreat back home. That's probably one of the greatest feelings in the world in StarCraft. So yeah, you can really effectively deny expansions like that, especially from a Terran player that wants to fly their expansion over. So I wanted to show one more cool thing from this same game. I'm just going to explain to you how is the best way to get these Overlords over there. Because the whole, if you click one, then right click, click one, right click, it can take a while for you to do that. So I'm going to show you a better way to do that. And then the other thing I wanted to point out was how Nogrim is getting his Overlord speed upgrade, and right as soon as it kicks in, he sends these Overlords across the map. I mean, that is just awesome. What can I say? Nogrim, you're the man. So we're going to follow him from his perspective, and we're going to look at how he selects these Overlords to move them. So what you're going to see is he's got these Overlords all grouped up, and he's going to right click them to move to one spot, and then he'll shift click, remove one of these from the queue, and then send the rest of them to the next spot. So all of them but that one Overlord will go to the next spot, and then he just kind of goes down the line, and it's a lot easier to do that than to click on individual Overlords and move them. So let's just watch this happen real quick. Clicking, moving, removing, moving, removing, moving, removing, moving. Metamorphosis complete. The Overlords are now fast, and now his Overlords are nicely spread across the map. That is just too cool. Nogrim, you rock. Alright, so the last little utility I want to talk about with using Overlords is the Doom drop, which is basically loading up the vast majority of your army inside of Overlords with eventual Sax upgrade, and then dropping them straight on your opponent's face. Sitting and spinning all over your opponent's face. So, yeah, we're basically just going to watch that happen, just in case you hadn't seen something like that before. He's got a giant army of roaches, and he got his eventual Sax upgrade. Now he's got an army of Overlords, and he's just going to send these over. This is especially good versus a Terran, because the Terran has very immobile troops generally if they're going mech. And it's also good on this map because the rush distances are so long between bases. To get into this base running the regular route takes forever, so it's much nicer if you can just drop in and out. So he's basically going to do this drop and completely obliterate the Terran's main. All those factories and barracks are hopping up, doing their little flying away. And while this is going on, he's also getting counterattacked. And so the nice thing again about these upgrades, or these Overlords, is he can just load up again, and rather than run this huge route around the map, he can go straight directly back to his base. So yeah, Overlords, once they actually get the speed upgrade, they're not too slow. They're relatively fast, I'd say. And of course they're weak to Vikings and things like this, so he's going to lose some units, but that's not a huge deal. It was definitely worth it. Alright, so that's basically all I wanted to talk about with Overlords. When you're practicing this on your own, don't try to do all these things at once. Just try to pick one thing and each game and just say, I'm going to do this really well. I'm going to place this Overlord or this Overlord, spread this creep in that way, and just improve like that. So if you enjoyed this, as always, give me a thumbs up on my video, like it, subscribe to me, all that usual jazz, and I'll see you guys next time.